Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 145 of the Karen Knits podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania, where I live, where I work, where I knit, and get into all kinds of other crafting shenanigans. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. It is Saturday, January 21st, 2023, and it's a cool, overcast day. They're threatening rain and possibly snow tomorrow, so we shall see what happens. Temperatures don't look like they'll be getting too low, so it's probably just going to be rain, but we shall see. So I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a fairly busy week. It's been a busy day, and I've had a pretty productive week knit-wise. So I have a finished object. I've got some progress on another project. And a new cast on. Why not? Finish one, start one? Sounds fair, doesn't it? Anyway, so my January socks are done. I love them. I used every last bit of this yarn. It had, the only bit left were 8 little scraps from tucking in the tails. That's it. So I probably have less than 5 or 6 inches of yarn left of the green. So the yarn came from a 12-day advent calendar I bought from Orlando Fiber Arts. And I decided what to do, or decided that for the 12-day advent calendar, what I was going to do was on day 1, I would open January 1st and knit a pair of January socks. Second day, I would open on February 1st and make a pair of February socks. Box 3, March 1st, and so on, so that by the end of the year I will have 12 pair of a sort of shorty, probably all vanilla socks. I might do some variety. I might just stick with doing them toe-up vanilla, because I quite like a plain toe-up vanilla sock, and one that's not very long in the leg. I like a little bit of leg, not a full shorty, but not a long leg. So these were done 2 at a time, toe-up, using magic loop, and I used a bare yarn for the toes and the heels, and just a little teeny bit on the cuff. I've seen Kay Litton, Crazy Sock Lady. She does a variation of a vanilla sock where she uses just a little flash of contrast on the cuff, and I think also on the toes and the heels. But what I wanted to do with these is, because the yarn for this 12-day calendar, advent calendar, they're each a 50-gram skein of yarn, which is perfect for doing this sock, or this pair of socks. And so what I did was did the toe, worked my way up the foot, increasing for a gusset, did a heel turn, the heel turn and heel flap, and then continued on in stockinette for, I think I did 20 rows in stockinette, and then I did a 2x2 rib until I completely ran out of yarn. And what I did was I took some of the bare yarn, the same as for the toes and the heels, excuse me, hairball. So what I did when I got close to the end of both ends of the skein of yarn, I did a magic knot and added the bare yarn. And then that way I did, I think, three rounds. I think I did 16, that's what it was. I worked it out I managed to get 16 rounds of the 2x2 ribbing, and then I did 4 rounds of white or bare yarn to finish them off. So I don't have a pattern for this, It's just a basic 2 at a time, toe up, gusset increasing, heel turn, heel flap, continue with vanilla, and then do the cuff until I ran out of yarn. So I was really happy that I was able to use all of this skein of yarn, absolutely all of it. And I love this pair of socks. They turned out, I'm really happy with them. I think they look really, really neat. And now I can't wait till the 1st of February to see what the February yarn looks like. And I suspect I'll probably, a few days before the 1st of February, I will cast on and do the white toes on the next one. Although I'm not 100% sure if I'll do that because I don't know what the new yarn will look like. If the new yarn is a speckle, suppose it's a speckled on a white background, then there might not be enough contrast with doing the heels, toes, and the little tiny bit on top of the cuff in a bare yarn as well. I've got a week and a half to decide, or a little over a week to decide. So I will figure that out later. I don't need to figure that out now. My other work in progress that I've spent a bit of time on, right now I have 4 whips. My Rachel top, I did nothing on that this past week. My Advent leftover socks, I think I did 2 rounds. So I'm not even going to bother showing those because they'll look absolutely the same as they looked last week, except there'll be 1 or 2 more rounds of the last color I used on there. So I won't bother showing you those. I have spent some time working on my Anthology Throw. So it's a pattern by Helen Stewart, and I made some decent progress on it. Granted, progress on this one, what feels like I've done a lot doesn't look like I've done a lot because each round right now is almost 600 stitches. So to do 1 round takes me a little while. So since I saw you last week, I think I finished, or was I on? I can't remember if I did 1 round. I had 1 round left to do in this dark blue, which was color 16. And I've also added on color 17, this gorgeous variegated yarn. So from where the marker is upwards is what I've done since last week. So not much. But as I said, each round is I think it's 570 odd stitches. So it takes a while to get all the way around. Here's sort of what it looks like. It's so bright. So I'm on color number 17 now, and my plan for this upcoming week, let me just put this aside. My plan for the upcoming week is I want to finish the Anthology Throw. I think I'm going to put my Rachel top aside for the time being, and I will come back to that once I've finished the Anthology Throw. Once I finish the Anthology Throw, I will also be finished with the Advent leftover socks, because each time I finish a color on the Anthology Throw, I take that extra little bit of yarn and add it into my leftover socks. So I'm adding a few rows to that each time I finish a color here. So I'm hoping that I can get a fair bit of work done on the Anthology Throw this week. I'm ready to get that one finished. I'm also ready to get the Rachel top finished, but I really want to get the Anthology Throw done. So I want to spend a fair bit of time working on that this week coming up. I also have a new cast on. I have zero business casting on something new, but in my defense, Sock Madness is coming up. And if you've been around here for a while, you know that I love Sock Madness. And we're getting closer to the beginning of Sock Madness 17. This will be year 17 doing in Sock Madness. I joined, I think I've been doing it for over 10 years now. I can't remember what year I started on, but I have been doing Sock Madness for a long time, and I absolutely love it. So typically, as we're getting closer to the beginning of Sock Madness, they tend to put out a couple patterns for warm-up patterns, and it's basically just a way to give everyone that's impatiently waiting for Sock Madness to begin, it gives them something to do. So it's kind of like they're throwing us a little something so that we'll quit asking, is it time yet, and have something to knit on. So they put out the first warm-up pattern several days ago. I think it might have even been last weekend. And I did cast it on, and I've got a tiny bit of progress. Granted, I think it had been out for 2 days before I even realized it was out, because I wasn't expecting it quite this early, which is fine. And then I had a couple other things I wanted. I wanted to finish my January socks before I started something else. And I finally caved and cast them on a couple days ago. So this pattern is called Instant Crush, and it's a pattern by Anna Zhuravleva. I will put her information down below, and I will put a link to my project page down below. I still haven't figured out how to do the adding the text into the new video editing software that I'm using. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So, and I don't have time this afternoon to try to figure it out. So hopefully next week I will have made time to get it done. So anyway, here's my teeny tiny start. I've done the toes. They are a toe-up pair of socks. I've done the toes, and I've got the first 2 rounds of the patterning done. I'm doing them 2 at a time, magic loop on US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles. And here's what they're looking like so far. This is a yarn I dyed myself. It used to be one that you might have seen sitting back here before. It's a yarn I dyed myself several years ago, and I don't remember how I did them. That's the story of all the yarns I've dyed. I don't remember how I created this. I don't remember what I used for dyeing it. I don't remember. But it's a nice pastel green, and it's going to have a little bit of, it's probably going to have a little bit of pooling and micro striping, and I'm okay with that. I actually don't mind a little bit of pooling and micro striping in my knitting, on socks that is. On some projects I might not really want to have that. But this is the first warm-up pattern. I suspect there will be another warm-up pattern. So typically, for those of you who are not familiar with Sock Madness, or haven't heard me talk about it for almost a year, I'll give you a little bit of an overview on it. And I will also include a link down below to the Ravelry group that is focused on Sock Madness. So typically what they do is they'll put out a couple warm-up patterns early on in January, and usually January, February. And then registration opens and runs from February 1st until February 14th, I think it is. It's the first half of February is when registration is open. So everyone that's interested in participating, they have to register. There's no fee to do so, but you do have to register. And there's a form that will be accessible on their webpage that you register during that window. Then once all the registration is done, they will have a qualifying round pattern. So everybody who registered and wants to compete will have a 2-week window of time in order to knit the pair of qualifying round socks to certain specifications. When we are participating in Sock Madness, they're quite strict about having to knit exactly to pattern, and a certain length on the legs, certain length of the foot, certain type of heel, whatever the pattern specifies. They're very specific about how the pattern has to be done. And this is done so that it's as even a playing field as possible for everyone who's competing. So everybody who successfully completes the pair of qualifying round socks within that 2-week window of time, they will advance and be able to participate in the actual Sock Madness competition. And once that happens, once you've completed the qualifying round successfully within the time frame to the specifications, all that good stuff, the moderators and those that are organizing and running Sock Madness, what they will do is they will place all of the people who are competing onto a team. Now the teams typically go from inexperienced, newer knitters to very experienced, very fast knitters. And it's not an exact science. I don't know how they manage to place people. There is information that you will fill out in the application or in the registration form that gives some indication of your knitting speed, background, all that kind of stuff. So they'll put you on a team. Typically they'll start out with 25, 26 teams in that range, with anywhere between 30 and 45 people per team. Then once the actual competition begins, everyone will be sent, first we will be given information on what some of the details about the pattern are. So it'll tell us whether we need 50 grams of one color, 50 grams of another color, or if we need a solid 100 grams of solid colored yarn, or if we need one solid colored yarn with 5 contrasting colors of a certain length. All of that information is given to us for all of the potential socks we'll be knitting. They will give out the specifications usually 48 hours before the pattern is going to be available. And then it gives you a little bit of time to kind of gather the supplies you want to use, gather those together. And then once the pattern comes out, everyone knits as fast as they can to complete the pair of socks. And in the first several rounds, you're competing against only the people on your team. So suppose I'm on team C, just picking a random one. There will be, suppose there's 40 people per team. Round 1, it'll be something like the first 35 people on each team to finish will advance to round 2 on all of the teams. So the fastest X number of people on each of the teams will advance to round 2. Then round 2 comes around, so we'll have 5 people from each team will be eliminated. And those numbers vary depending on how many rounds there's going to be, how many competitors there are, and so on and so on. We'll be told all of this information along the way as well. Then once we get to round 2, 48 hours before the pattern is going to come out, they will release the specs for the second pattern. And then within 48 hours, the pattern will come out. Everyone in each of the teams knits as fast as they can, and then it might be the fastest 30 people on every team will advance to round 3. And so on and so on and so on until you end up with one person on each of the teams. And so that'll be the fastest person on team A, fastest person on team B, C, and so on. Those 25, 27 people for the final round, they will compete against each other. So the first time that all the teams will compete against each other. Up until the final round, you're competing only with people in your team. So once you get to the final round, the fastest person on each team go head to head on the final pattern. And the final pattern is it's frequently something quite challenging. And the fastest person to finish is the winner. The second person to cross the finish line, second place and third place. So then we have the top 3 finishers of the entire competition. So this typically takes several months to go through, and it's just so much fun. I have been eliminated at various points over the years. There's 1 or 2 years where I didn't even finish the qualifying round and was not in the competition, did not get any of the patterns. I was finished before it even really started. And there's other rounds, I think 1 year I got to round 5. Once or twice I've got to round 5. I usually get knocked out in round 3 or 4, typically. And it's such fun. It really is so much fun. Each of the teams tend to get a lot of camaraderie going between them on the team, and develop different friendships, and they'll set up a thread on Ravelry for each of the teams. It's just so much fun. It'll be curious to know when the qualifying round starts. They used to do it where the registration was over the entire month of February. This year it's only the first 2 weeks of February, so I am wondering if maybe the qualifying round might come out sooner than it used to. I don't know. I am speculating on this completely. I do not know. I'm guessing. But I am excited. So the warm-up patterns are just that. They're just there for us to start to get an idea of checking the pattern, making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do, all this kind of stuff. So, and it's also just to kind of get us to calm down and quit refreshing the page all the time to see if there's any new information about the competition. We all tend to get a little bit tightly wound during the year when this is starting to come up. But Sock Madness is one of my favorite times of the year. So I am very excited about it. I am enjoying the first pattern, or the first warm-up pattern so far. I wasn't sure if I would do the warm-up. I don't always do the warm-up patterns, but this one, the pattern's really pretty. So I thought I really want to knit this pair of socks. So my plans for the week coming up are to work on the Instant Crush socks and my habitation throw. I really do want to get the habitation throw. No, it's not the habitation throw. I do want to knit that pattern. It's another Helen Stewart pattern, but that is not the one I am knitting right now. I hope I haven't been saying habitation throw the whole time. Anthology throw. So that is what I want to get, the anthology throw and my Advent leftover socks finished before Sock Madness gets going in full swing, because once Sock Madness begins in earnest, all of my other knitting gets put to the wayside and it will be ignored, because I've got my focus is on getting the socks done in time to qualify and advance to the next round. That's what I'm always aiming for. So anything else I'm knitting on at the time is going to be put on the back burner until that particular round is finished. It is what it is. So I do want to finish Anthology in the next few weeks. I really do want to have it done before the registration for Sock Madness is over. So it still gives me 3 weeks to finish it, which I think is very, very doable. And as I'm finishing each of the colors on there, I'm adding them to the socks. So those I end up adding a little blip every time I finish a color. So those will finish up once the Anthology Throw is done. The Advent socks will be finished very shortly afterwards. And I will be casting on the February socks come 1st of February. But by then I'm hoping all I'll have was Rachel February socks, and I'm hoping to have the Instant Crush socks finished by the 1st of February. I think we do only have a 2-week window to finish them. They're kind of trying to mimic the time frame to finish these socks on the warm-ups, to kind of put a little speed pressure behind you. With those, the speed, it's not essential, but it's just to kind of give competitors a feel for having to work quickly. So otherwise, I did a lot of yakking about Sock Madness. I tend to do a lot of yakking about it each year as we come closer to it. If it's something you've not done before and you might be interested in it, check out the link to the Ravelry page down below and read the info pages. It probably explains it a little better than I explained it. Who knows? But those are my plans for knitting in the next little while. So hopefully when you see me next week, I will have a good chunk of work done on Anthology, and I'll have a lot more on the socks to show you. Aside from that, work has been busy. Classes are back in full swing. Life has been busy. It's all good. So I think that's about it. I shall let you go. I'm going to go get the editing done on this, and I will see you guys again in a week. Bye.